Hello guys, good evening there. So to continue with our lesson in page 123. So nag-shortcut lang ko no, na ako skip kay okay, pwede ka pa dito mag-start. Gamay lang siya intro lang. In lesson 10, page 116, getting started with the JavaScript. This is a little background about JavaScript now. We might not be really learning all the nitty-gritty of what JavaScript is. At least nalang tayo gamay idea, and then we'll try to apply that now. So we have been talking about scripts in our earlier lessons. Before we get started with the specific scripting language called JavaScript, let's define again what a script is. A script is a set of computer instruction or commands that puts together or connects existing components to accomplish a new related task. Scripts are typically written in plain text form and are interpreted each time they are invoked. Again, I'm on 116. So what is JavaScript now? JavaScript is a powerful client-side scripting language that is interpreted by web browsers. It enables web developers and designers to build more functional and interactive websites. Most major web browsers and those emerging on the net supports JavaScript. In fact, you would find that JavaScript is enabled by default in most of these browsers. So sa Chrome natin, makita na to. Sa setting niya to enable JavaScript. And for one, JavaScript begin a scripting language allows webmaster to create cool applications in their web pages with relatively easier coding work. It is also lightweight because unlike server-side script, it is directly interpreted by the browser without the need for compiling. This allows the webmasters to do all the cool stuff without significantly reducing loading speed. And at last but not least, JavaScript is readily available at no cost to develop as opposed to platforms such as Flash. Flash before, this is for multimedia presentations and for website interactivity, but na-phase out na siya, no? So, ito ang bago na ginagamit yun, si JavaScript. At first glance, one would think that JavaScript is somewhat associated with Java, but this is entirely inaccurate, no? Walang kinalaman si Java sa JavaScript. JavaScript was created by Brendan H. for Netscape, one of the pioneer web browsers. Originally, it was called LiveScript, but then, for marketing reasons, it was changed to JavaScript since the Java programming language had become popular. Okay, so yun pala yung strategy nun. Kaya JavaScript ang tawag niya, but it has no relation to Java. When you visit a JavaScript enhanced website, you essentially download the HTML code to display the site and all scripts inside. Most browsers have JavaScript enabled by default, so the script runs automatically when the page loads or when you trigger a certain action. This kind of behavior brings into light some security issues regarding JavaScript, which we will discuss shortly. But for now, let us discuss the characteristic of JavaScript as a programming language. Okay, so again, JavaScript is a lightweight programming language. Okay, so these are the characteristics of JavaScript now. It's an interpreted language. JavaScript is what we call an interpreted language due to the fact that it requires a browser to run. I'm on page 117, no? I hope you have your book with you. Let's look at the difference between Java programming language and JavaScript. Java is a programming language that needs its code to be compiled before it can be executed. On the other hand, JavaScript was created to work together with HTML and requires a browser in order to run. Kasi yung ibang programming, you need a special compiler para doon siya mag-run. But in the case of JavaScript, parang HTML good, nasa browser lang, kita mo na ang output. Okay, so ganun din si JavaScript. Partly this is the reason why the JavaScript source code can easily be seen when you view the source code of a JavaScript enabled web page. Then another is scripting language. Scripting languages are treated like programming language, but they are normally created to perform simple repetitive tasks. Okay, they do not come with their own interfaces, but they provide instructions to other programs on what to do. In the case of JavaScript, for example, while it does not contain the program on how the whole web page looks like, we can use it to change certain elements of the web page through the browser. Okay, another characteristic of JavaScript is client-side scripting. There are basically two kinds of scripting for the web. client side and server side. As the name implies, the key difference between these scripts is the location to which they are executed. A server-side script is executed on the actual server machine that hosts the web page. If you could remember, yung website natin, try natin i-upload, di ba? Na-remember nyo, yung sa 00 host. Some of you were able to successfully host your website there. That is an example of server, no, na parang doon mo siya gi-host, doon ng server, and then that's why we are able to see your website on the internet. Okay, so may scripting language na nakatutok sa server side, meron din sa client side. When you see client side, sa harap mo lang, sa browser mo lang siya. Okay, so in the case of JavaScript, for example, while it does not contain the program on how the whole web page look like, we can use it to change certain elements of the web page through the browser. Okay? And sa client-side scripting, a server-side scripting is executed on the actual server machine that hosts the web page, while a client-side script is executed on the very machine that you are using. Sa computer mismo, ang loading diha mo na ang client-side, no? JavaScript is a client-side scripting language, while scripts written in ASP, PHP, or JSP are called server-side scripting language. To highlight the difference between the two, let's say we create a script that gets the current time. When we use PHP to get the time, it will return the time on the location of the server machine that stores the actual web page. So if the location of the host is the United States of America, PHP will return the time in the USA. JavaScript, however, will return the time that is currently set on the computer that you are using at that moment. Another difference between the two is the code. When you load a PHP script and view the source code on your browser, you can't see the actual PHP script but only HTML. The reason for this is that server interprets the PHP script and just return HTML. With JavaScript, you can view the source code together with HTML elements on the web page. The source code is present because it is the web browser on your local machine that interprets it. Okay? So, let's talk about object-oriented programming. No? So, these are all concepts sa programming na itong try o understand. No? Okay? So, object-oriented programming. Another advantage of JavaScript is that it presents to you many things as object and lets you easily manipulate them. OOP is a programming style that treats every element in a system as an object. In OOP, each object has its associated functions called method, which are the things that objects knows how to do. Okay, let's look at a simple web page in relation to JavaScript. The whole web page is seen as an object called document. Ang buong web page is treated as an object called document. Okay, now if we want to change the background color of the web page, we change the object property by BG color to the color of your choice. Don't worry if you can't fully understand what document and what BG color are. We'll go over them in detail in the succeeding lessons. For now, what's really important is for you to know that JavaScript is a very powerful object-based or object-oriented or OOP scripting language. Although JavaScript is not a full-blown OOP language, it lets you create or access objects and manipulates them according to your needs. So, why should you use objects? Objects are not only help you better understand how JavaScript works, they simplify your coding work because you can actually reuse objects many times on your page or even across pages, and they are easier to maintain. Okay, so yan yung concept ng object, no? You try to declare a certain object, then you can reuse the code again and again in every pages. So what you should already know, text editor. So may ginagamit na tayo, di ba? Yung iba sa inyo naka VS Code, naka brackets, or iba naka Notepad. Most browsers can support JavaScript and have the ability to enable or disable it. In fact, most browsers have set JavaScript to enable by default. I'm on page 119, okay? Now that you know the tools required to begin creating your JavaScript program, below are a few important things to know before JavaScript. JavaScript is normally embedded in your HTML code, so you don't need modification in the file extension that HTML or HTML will do. No? Although you would normally embed JavaScript into your HTML code, in some large scripts, you can save them in a separate file like .js and load them into your browser by linking. So, same concept sa CSS, diba? Style.css. yung external, ganun ginagawa natin. That's very helpful kasi pag malaki yung binabuild mong website. To improve your learning, the key in understanding JavaScript. Okay? Learn at an optimal pace and do a lot of practice. Hindi ko nabasahin lahat, ha? Okay, so of course, practice makes perfect. Okay? Ano yung understand, yung sunod, practice until you grow from there, no? And then understand the concept of object. It's very important. JavaScript is an object-based language, although it is not classified as a full-blown OOP. The ability to do anything in a programming language requires functions supported by the language. JavaScript has a few functions that are not part of objects, but most of its functionalities are contained in its objects. To utilize JavaScript effectively is to understand what objects are and how you can manipulate them using methods, parameters, and events. Okay? So, let's try to understand it better now. The following terms are inevitably used in JavaScript and in most other programming languages. Hence, it would be good to have a background on these concepts now. Understand natin ang concept. Objects. When you say objects, these are items that exist in the browser. The browser window, the page itself, the status bar, and the date and times stored in the browser are all objects. So, lahat na nakita natin dyan, it represents an object. Okay? Yung window, yung buong page, yung status bar, date, time. When you say method, these are actions to be performed on or by an object. Methods also represent functions that are designed for a specific purpose, like doing math or parsing strings. So if you will liken that into a person, if say for example an object student of course has subject, no? Then kailangan niya mo enroll, ma-attend siya classes. So these are, and then meron siyang teacher, meron siyang classroom kung saan siya mag-aaral. So yung mga attributes na nasa isang teacher, or say a car, okay? I think a better example of an object is a car. Generic ang lahat ng car, di ba? Meron siyang mga wheels, meron siyang steering wheel, of course, meron siyang upuan, meron siyang window. These are all attributes that we can say, no, kung ano yung itsura ng car. And then, kung ano yung kayang gawin ng car, these are the methods, no? So, for example, ang isang car, meron siyang method to speed up or to brake, di ba? To turn left or to turn right. Yung kapasidad ng isang car, yun yung mga method niya. Okay? So, in an object car, may mga method siyang to speed up, to brake, to turn left, to turn right. Okay? So, basically, ganun ang gusto natin ma-understand, no? Properties are an existing subsection of an object. It's important to learn this basic concept of programming. When you say properties, gaano ba siya kalaki, kaliit, anong kulay? Okay? You're quite familiar with this already sa HTML, no? Event. Something which happens or which is done, such as loading page. So, event, nag-execute ka either isang function na nag-expect ka og some result. No? That is an event already na. Okay, when you click this button, ano ang event? On what kind of event ba? So, example is holding a mouse over a link. Pag hover mo, lalabas ang ganitong link. Lalabas ang ganitong image. Okay, that is an event already. Okay, pag click mo on event, click mo siya, ganito ang mangyayari. Okay? So, that is an event. It's like an instance. Okay? Of wherein you are expecting some output, some reaction. And then parameter, data or other object which describes the characteristics of an object. So, when you say parameter, sa example ng object ng car, pwede siyang mag-brake, pwede siyang di ba, ang method niya, pwede siyang mag-brake, pwede siyang mag-speed up or gas up. And then, ang parameter niya is kung mag-speed up, gaano ba siya kalakas. Okay? Kung mag-brake siya, gaano ba kalakas ng pagka-brake yun. Okay? These are the parameters or the values that you apply to your method, no, para ma-process as a method. And then, we also have the so-called type. The type of variable such as integer, string, floating point, or boolean. Okay? So, when you say types or data type, it talks about the different kind of data na kayang i-process. Okay, in JavaScript. Actually, lahat ng programming languages, meron niyang mga data types na generic. So, for example, int for integer. Diba? So, for example, a is equal to 5. If a is equal to 5, then a plus a, or a squared, is equals 25. Okay? If that's the case, every time in your code you use a, that is intended for mathematical purposes kasi number man siya. Okay? So that if that's the intention na gagawin mo sa yung variable, number 1, number 2, depende anong klaseng variable, say for example a, dapat i-declare mo siya as integer para pag gamit mo sa kanya, qualified siya sa trabahong gagawin niya. Okay? So say for example, if a stands for a name, so for example, A stands for Johan, and then, therefore, gagamitin mo lang si A if it's something like related sa name or string. Okay, so you cannot say that A times 5 already kasi hindi man siya mathematical ang declaration niya na ready, hindi man siya integer. It's a name. So it's more of a string. Okay, we call it string. Okay? So, yun yung ginasabi niya dito, merong kanya-kanyang type, integer, string, floating point, or boolean. Boolean is true or false. Okay? Kung ang gagawin mong program would answer true or false, then dapat ang pag-declare mo sa variable mo, which should be boolean. Okay? So, yun yung sinasabi niyang type. Type conversion, the act of converting a variable from one type to another. So that's typecasting, no? Sinasabi, type conversion. There's this strategy na pwede nating gawin ang isang from one data type, ma-convert siya sa another data type. Okay? That is possible. And then, let us go to lesson 11, no? Page 123. Okay, when JavaScript was introduced, there was no need for an interface to allow the script to access elements on the page. During its infancy, each browser had their own specification on how to access page elements. This became a problem for programmers since there was no set standard to follow and there were inconsistencies between web pages. Now, depending on internet browser you're using, eventually the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, was created so that there would be compatibility and agreement in the adoption. The Document Object Model, or DOM, is an interface that allows you to access and manipulate the contents of a document. In our lesson, a web page with a programming language, it is a structured, object-oriented representation of the individual element of a page with methods, properties, and events for those objects. Okay, let's begin our first program with a classic Hello World display. Okay, so i-try natin ito, no? Wait, HTML, and then you got your header there. Okay, and then dito sa header, so dito tayo naglagay ng so this is the code, no? For JavaScript. First, you write the keyword na script, and then type, and then dito mo i-declare that this is JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript. And then document that write. So this is one method, no, wherein papalabas siya ng hello world. Hello world. Okay, and then semicolon. Okay, hello world. Okay, then inside got yung body. Okay, okay. And then let's study the structure of the code snippet. Here we place the JavaScript within the head tag of HTML. This means that JavaScript is executed before the body tag. So, ibig sabihin, from this code here, oops, wala. Ang tama. Nag-grad man siya, ha? Anyway, I don't see any error. So, from the book, I'm on page 124. Okay. Let's try to check out the structure, no? Until page 11. Hindi lang, ha? Laro na kung tama bang numbering na to para masubay na to. Pareha sila. And number 7 is script. Ay, ara. Closing script tag. Ano, wala ang closing script. Sorry. Na-delete na ako. Hindi ako kabantay. Then, wala na ako na-close na rin. Sorry about that. Yan. And then, save. Refresh. Yan. Hello world. Okay. Then, so here, we place JavaScript within the head tag. Ibig sabihin, pag load ng HTML natin, kasi mag-read man siya from up to down, no? Pagdating sa head, so i-process niya, okay, we have a JavaScript here. And then, this portion, lagyan natin, meron siyang text file dito. May isang BR siya. Holds content of the body tag. Okay. And then, sabi niya dito, from line 3 to 5, you will see that script tags that tell the browser that the lines of code, those tags are script. Okay. Ano eh? Okay, mo ni siya. Ilhan na to sa taas. I-declare na to that we will have a JavaScript document script. And then, line 4 holds the actual JavaScript code. Yeah, actually, it's line 3 in us, no? And then, going down, hindi na ako magpasa, tanan, no? Kapag kasi ibasa, guys. Since JavaScript is an OOP language, not only does it have objects and methods, but objects also have properties. Check out the table below to see some of the common methods and properties for the document object, no? So, there is a table, BG color, background color, then document object model to use that to write. It writes a string of text to the document now. And then so on and so forth. Na napatay FG color, foreground font color, right? LN writes a string of text followed by a new line character to a document. Then you also have the image, set an image, get element by ID, returns a reference to the element whose ID is specified. Kung sa tawagon mo siya, okay, you use get element by ID, and then location gets or set the URL path, get element by name, write a string of text followed by a new line character to a document. Okay, so let's try this out, no? Sa page 125, natay button nga mag-ilis-ilis ang color. Okay, so I don't know, have we tried this out last time? Anyway, yep, sige lang ipadayon na ako, no? I kind of forgot. Sige. Sa line, there is a body. Sa body, tanggalan na sa nako na yung script, ha? Wala mo siya kipatang dito sa head. There is a body. Tanggal na doon, eh. Saan yan, ano? put type types equals to button value, and then red, tapos on click, may sa kanya document that bg color, okay, equals 2 this is actually ASCII code, no? So pwede na ako na i-kuan dito, no? ASCII code for red, or red. So kana kapil na ko ni siya. Bg color niya would equal to ba na to ni siya. Ganyan. Actually, ano na siya? Colon. Ganyan. Ay, ano? Lagi, colon. And then, closing tag. Yan. Close na siya. So, pag i-click ang red, save daw. Save. Let's see over here. Okay, so na-red ang background, no? Nice, no? Here. Okay. Let's try to change this to blue. On-click ang... Then, let's try to ASCII code sa blue. ASCII code sa blue. Okay. Okay, save. Okay, red, blue. And then, next is okay. Saan color ni isa? Yellow. Ayan. So we have 3 buttons na, yellow, blue, red. Okay, interesting, no? So that's an example of a JavaScript na code. And then what is the other PG background, string of text followed by new line. We can also try a simple script for dito banda. Buhat isa ka sa body gapon. Dito banda. Sumpile na to ng isa ka activity, guys, ha. Kay dire. So that is an example of a document object properties, no, na i-try na tugdula. For a simple document changing manipulation. So we can use that. So nakita na to siya at an event nagi-click. So clicking the button is an event, and then yan yung reaction niya, no. Gi-change na to ang iyang background. Okay. We can also have this activity page 126. Okay, so unsa niya image. So na siya i-apply ng imagery. Okay, magita tag image. Unsa ba image? Sa image na ko na dire sa So may tag image, no. Sa may image na pwede. Okay, kaning daw. Transition.jpg. Okay. Transition.jpg. Okay. JPG. JPG. And then Sorry. Image source. Transition.jpg. And then name is equals to sample batala ko na hindi na emoticon, and then wala man ko'y image dire ano ang emoticon, tapos name on mouse over ay ara kamo na yung event niya. Wait ha, name is equals to okay, tama to yun eh. Sorry, sample kunwari. Tapos tinsan na emoticon, no? On mouse, yan. On mouse over, ang mayayari kung mag mouse over equals to dalang taas kaya siya, no? Baba ito doon. Mouse over document that images that sample mo akong gagamit ng name niya, sample that src is equals to okay, sa may mga image na dato dili kani slide kaning slide pwede slide 1 that gif tama, ano na lang siya dili guys, slide 1 tapos dere is ay tatlo man to, no? Slide 2 that gif, and then on mouse out, pagtanggal sa on mouse out, pag-alis ng mouse, yan ko to hindi na ako mag-type gif lang, unterminated, wala pa man tanong man. Okay, hindi ko kailangan semicolon, tapos on mouse out tapos document image 1 slide 1 mouse over mouse out saan ay angal niya? Kulang ng housing. Okay, so save na natin. I wonder where's the image. Ilalis na nato ba yan sa mga itataglaing image ni. Ayun, magana sila akong gif siguro. Transition.jpg tingnan natin yun, missing nega there, they overriding yan. Is it overriding? Ay, wala day, sorry. Wala na ako na-close. Closing. Yan. Okay. Slide 1.jpg. Ay, .gif, no? GIF. Okay. So, nakita na to. On mouse over, nag-slide to siya. Tapos on mouse, balik ko to siya sa 1 siguro. Parang balik sa original state. Okay. Napansin niyo? Bali, ang file mo is malaki kasi ang file nito eh. Tingnan mo ha. So, square. So, kaya, pag makapasok ako, okay, so on mouse over, i-change siya ng color. But it would have been nicer na kung mas maliit tong image na to. Kita niya. Okay. So, doon ka image ang testing. So, mauna niya ha, image 1, image 2. So, try to make it more interesting now. Emoticons. Doon ka image. Let's say for example try to download some okay, PNG, and then I will open this, I will edit this in Photoshop for a while, tapos i-ano ko siya, okay, ito nangyari. So, i-crop natin. Ganyan. J. Another is ganyan. G. Oops. So layers. Ito pala sa baba ang layer. Okay. Okay, so I have the images now. Okay, tapos ang gagawin ko, so square man ko, magngita ko o magkuhan ko bagong new square no, 5 by 5 just okay, and then talo na ako dito. Oh my god, kada ko yun lang, just for the demo lang ito smiley JPEG na siya. Smiley okay, save na. Tapos ka ng isa. Abad na nakadako pa no. Dako pa tayo may dapat. Okay, so I think you can already imagine what will happen now. Two switching images now. Smiley 2. Okay, and then when we come here sa ating siya dire smiley 2. Okay, so tawagin natin sila. First is balik natin smiley JPEG, And then dito is smiley smiley 2. Tama ba ko? Smiley 2 na JPEG. Then ibalik natin yung smiley 1 dito sa baba para paghawa sa mouse niya babalik yung original niya na ano, original state, no, original na itsura. Okay, so save. Okay, close natin si Photoshop. Don't save, no. Okay, and then okay. Aha, malakihin na. Digyan natin siya ng ano siguro na. Can we let's try to change. Can we change the size here na? Height equals to 50. And then yan. And then siya maliit naman. 100. Smiling JPG. Save. Okay, so kita ninyo naka-simple animation. Okay, so this is just an example na. I think hanggang doon lang muna tayo, and I want to show you something interesting. Okay, meron tayong simple calculator ginawa, no? Gusto ko sana itong gawin natin, pero baka hindi nyo masyadong ma-appreciate kasi medyo mahaba yung code niya, but same concept, no? Button click, on-click push button. This is a simple calculator. This is how it actually looks like, no? I created an ICT 9 calculator, yeah? 5 because 40 plus 6, 46. So yeah, this is a simple calculator, no, na gawa sa JavaScript, and then so example lang yan siya. So imagine you could embed this one in your website. Okay, so pwede siya inaana po, kunwari nakaibuhaton niya calculation magkano yung sa hotel, so i-compute natin. So pwede ganyan na strategy. Okay, but siguro sunod na lang sir natin i-discuss, no, kasi hindi na ito totally ma-appreciate na yun. Hinay-hinay lang sa ta. Let's try to see, no, baka lang okay lang sa inyo mag-extend tagamay para itaka na natin ng isa ka application, and then yeah, so wala, mag-summer na bitaw, sana okay lang sa inyo, no. I'm willing to go to somewhat extra mile just to deliver pag a better result of our project, no. For the meantime, yeah, I hope you could add this up to your website, no, na pwede siya maka-add color. This is actually the same concept na pag mag-translate siya, kunwari English to Filipino, mag-click og button, same na siyang idea, color lang itong gigamit. Okay, so kung multilingual ang yung website, pag-click automatic change language, this is the almost the same concept. Okay, so I hope you learned something from this session, and I really look forward to seeing you all on Friday. Okay, Friday, and let's see if the class would agree to have at least kahit isang on the following week pag-meet pa rin tayo. And yeah, that would be my pleasure. Okay, so thank you guys, and thanks for watching, and good night. Okay, bye bye.